Hello, everyone. Welcome to another 2023 FallDocs screening. My name is Armando Zamudio, and I am the Public Programs and Events Coordinator here at IDA. For our blind and low vision attendees, I'm going to describe myself. I am wearing a black t-shirt with a black jacket, glasses, and I am sitting in front of a white wall. Thank you to our media sponsors, KCRW and Variety, for sponsoring our 2023 FallDocs. This evening, we'll have a conversation between film journalist Robert Abele, director Madeline Gavin, and producer Sue Mi Terry, whose film Beyond Utopia premiered at Sundance Film Festival 2023. To see more amazing films like this, please visit www.documentary.org/FallDocs. Now, before we get started, I would like to offer a brief land acknowledgement. We recognize the Gabrielino Tongva as the past, present, and future caretakers of the land, water, and cultural resources in the unceded territory of Los Angeles. Thank you so much to Andrea Lust for ASL interpreting this discussion. And with that, I will pass it on to Robert. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Robert Abele. I'm a Los Angeles-based critic and journalist, and I'm here to moderate a discussion with Madeline Gavin, the director of this incredible film Beyond Utopia, and Sue Mi Terry, who is a producer on the film and who is also a participant in it. I guess I'll start off by saying for our low vision and blind attendees, I have glasses, I have a beard, I've got a greenish shirt, and I'm in front of a bookcase. Madeline, do you want to describe yourself?
Sure. I have dark hair, dark eyes. I'm wearing like a dark gray sweater. I probably look very tired. No. And I'm in a room, sort of a long room, in Los Angeles at the moment. And I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Sue Terry. I'm Asian woman wearing a light gray sweater with, I'm in New York. I have a white background, kind of New York apartment, I guess.
Well, thank you both for doing this. It is a powerful movie. It is one of those movies that, unlike a film about North Korea, that maybe gives you kind of one of those peek behind the curtain, exotic horror thing. You've made an urgent film about the people there and what they're going through. And I guess I'm going to start off by asking, I think what people will want to know right off the bat after they see this, can you provide any updates on the Rowe family and Soyun and Pastor Kim?
Yeah, the Rowe family are in South Korea doing very well. Actually, I mean, they are the lucky of the lucky because they came as a family, which is unusual for defectors. Mama Rowe is studying to be a social worker to help other North Koreans sort of assimilate into society there. And Dad is working in a tofu factory, and the girls are doing extremely well in school. And Grandma is enjoying her life. She's having some age-related memory issues, but she's really enjoying. They're all enjoying their lives. Soyun is actually in the United States right now advocating for her son, and she recently heard that her son is alive, but it's still inside the gulag in North Korea. And so she's doing a lot of outreach. We're starting a call to action for her son. Pastor Kim right now, I was just on a Zoom with him a couple of days ago. He's actually in Southeast Asia right now, helping some people. Yeah, it's his second mission since the ones that we did.
Wow.
He helped some people earlier a couple months ago, and now he's back in Southeast Asia right now. And so he's continuing the work in spite of everything that he goes through.
I'll just add on a little bit on Soyeon, just because I've been traveling with her. We've been traveling to various film festivals. She has really become an advocate. She believes in promoting this film, telling a story of her son, what happened to him. So this doesn't happen to another person, you know, and she's been so grateful. Audience response to this film, and particularly her story and her plight, has been overwhelming. We have people lined up after the movies, you know, various different people, moms, dads, line up. They're just, you know, so they don't know how to act after watching something like this. So when they see Soyeon, they just say, I'm so sorry, but I need to touch you. I need to give you a hug. I need to hold you. We don't speak the same language. We don't, but I'm a mom. And, you know, so Soyeon has been so moved by this. So I think she has found some meaning despite such, you know, tragic, obviously, journey that she had. She found this, you know, advocacy to be deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to the beginning. I mean, how does an opportunity like this come along? And Madeline, had you been thinking about making a film about North Korea? And then Sue, how did you get involved with it?
So I had not been thinking about making a movie about North Korea. Our producers had acquired the rights to Hyun Seo Lee's memoir, The Girl with Seven Names, and it had come to me about directing something based around that. And I read the book. It was beautiful and haunting, and it really opened up this curiosity in me. But I felt like, first of all, I knew for sure, like with any project, I wouldn't be the one to take it on unless there was something I felt that I could contribute, you know, that was really very specific to me and that would give reason for me to be the person to do this. And as I began to do research, I became more and more curious and more obsessed and more outraged, because what I discovered in reading and watching everything and digging into the internet, you know, using VPNs from every country, digging in every language, I realized that even though, depending on what country I searched from, what language I searched from, I could find different tidbits about life inside North Korea, and even pieces of hidden camera footage of what real life was like inside North Korea that was being smuggled out. But what outraged me was that there was nothing in our world, without me digging like that obsessively for months, there was nothing about the 26 million people who live inside North Korea. We, on the news in the United States, you know, we basically hear what the Kim regime would like us to hear, which is about the missiles and the parades. And so at a certain point, I felt like this has to be made. This has to be made, and it has to be made in a way that we have a real experience and really have come to know and give voice to these people. And, you know, through all of this, I eventually met Pastor Kim, and, you know, after many months of getting to know each other, he had the same desire to make that kind of film. And so we were very aligned. And that's when, at a certain point, many months later, we decided to do this together. And then Sue can talk about her incredible involvement, because she was key to this as well.
Well, for me, 6 years ago, one of the co-producers, Jana Ederbaum, we were mom friends. You know, our kids went to elementary school together, and I just knew that she had some film production company. She was involved in film, and she knew me as a North Korea expert because I was in the government for many, many years, CIA and National Security Council and so on, being a North Korea expert. So one day she called me and she said, and after she read The Girl with Seven Names, she's like, oh my God, do you know what's going on in North Korea? And I'm like, yes, this is what I do. I do know what's going on. And it's obviously a travesty. It just doesn't get enough attention. So initially, I think I got on board as a North Korea expert to advise on this. But then soon after, I decided to join full board, just because, you know, as an intelligence person, as intelligence and as an intelligence community, coming from intelligence community, the policy community, and academia, I write op-eds, I write book chapters, I hold conferences, I can testify in Congress, all you want, but we don't get to really tell this kind of story to raise awareness with everyone out there, right? Everybody just focused on the nuclear program and missile program and the weapons of mass destruction, and we don't talk enough about the people of North Korea. And I just thought this was an opportunity for me to be part of something, a project. It's a very different medium, but it's a very powerful medium to tell this story. And I've been so fortunate and so honored to have been working along. I watched Madeline do her brilliant job directing and editing this film, which was incredible. And so it's just been an incredible journey for me, and I'm so grateful.
Logistically, how does something like this happen? I mean, and is it one of those where you have a plan and then you have to change the plan all the time? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, well, so initially when we started going to South Korea, this was revolving and to some extent around Hyunseo Lee, who had written The Girl with Seven Names. But again, from the very beginning, I knew I wanted something present tense. She had defected, 20 plus years previous. I didn't want to do a film that was a recreation of her escape from 20 years ago. And so even when I was shooting with her, I mean, her present tense story for me was really more of a kind of a dark psychological thriller, almost, of what it means to be the most, at the time, high profile defector living in Seoul, super successful, 40 million views on her TED Talk, etc., but living in her mind in a constant state of guilt, isolation, depression, having left her country, and feeling, as she said to me many times, that whether she was in London, New York, Tokyo, wherever, she was always still inside North Korea in her mind. She was still trapped inside. So that I was shooting with Hyunseo, and I talked to her a lot about the fact that, I knew, I felt I needed something in the present. And she was very much on board with that. Like, we were brainstorming a lot together. And then I met Pastor Kim on like the second or third trip to Seoul. And the film did take a big turn. It's really, obviously because of Pastor Kim that we were able to do so much of what we were able to do, because, this film shoots on the border of North Korea and China, which is a place that nobody goes and nobody wants to go and nobody should ever have to go. And the only reason we were able to shoot there is because this is the way that North Koreans flee when they do flee their country. And the family who we follow, the Roh family, had fled over the river into China, into the mountains of Chiangbai, had roamed around the mountains, not having any idea where to go next or how to really get out, and had happened upon a farmer who happened to know someone who happened to know someone who was in Pastor Kim's vast underground railroad network. And it was because of that, people in that network were actually the ones who shot with the family in China. We never did anything, obviously, that would put the family at risk. So none of us were in China. Even Pastor Kim has not gone into China since 2009 because he was warned that he could be kidnapped into North Korea from there. So it's because of Pastor Kim and his network that we were able to penetrate this world the way we were. And then we as filmmakers were able to go into Southeast Asia with Pastor Kim, Vietnam, Laos, the border of Thailand, and obviously South Korea. And Sue may have more to say on that, but Pastor Kim was the key.
Yeah, Pastor Kim absolutely was the key. And I think everybody, for us, we are grateful that we were able to pivot that way. I participated in other documentaries on North Korea, obviously not as a producer, but just being interviewed. And most times it's about looking back, right? If we made a film about Hyunseo Lee's memoir, that would have been the case. But this has a real tension because we didn't know if there was going to be a film afterwards. Family could have been captured and sent back and there's no film. Or the participants said, we don't want to be shown and there's no film. So there was a lot of risk from filmmakers' perspective. And I'll just add, this is so important because I am a so-called North Korea expert that spent over 20 years in the US government, including 10 years at the CIA. And I'll tell you, we've been hearing about how this journey, what happens with the North Korean defectors, because we always debrief them when they arrive in South Korea. So we knew in theory, okay, you traverse this way and you go to this safe house and you go through this mountain and all of that. but I have never seen such footage. Like, so for even for the experts watching, I think this is the first time that you get to really see real time what happens versus somebody telling you what happened, and you can kind of, in theory understand it. So I think I'm very happy, and I think Madeline and everybody else too, that we did shift. It was very organically. So it just kept being a different film. But I think at the end of the day, and again, Madeline did an incredible job putting it all together.
I'm interested in the process of getting someone like Pastor Kim's trust for a documentary, and also the insight you got into who he is, because he's a fascinating person. So can you talk about that?
Yeah. It took many months for Pastor Kim and I to get to know each other. He's been approached by filmmakers in the past and also by different networks and stuff. And one thing, it did take he wanted to get to know me and us and vice versa. And one thing that he talks about now is just that he felt really that he and I were aligned in terms of what we wanted to do. That it was really important to do something that was going to crack this open in a very intimate and meaningful way, and not just a film that sort of, kind of shows you this, but you could just sort of turn turn away from. That really, we had to do something real and genuine and really bring the people of North Korea forward. So we were so aligned in that regard. And it was many months before we decided to work together, but when we did, everything opened up. In terms of him, he is an extraordinary individual. I mean, he's been through so much personal loss, right? He's been through so much physical hardship. He's in constant pain because of all the surgeries that he's had in his body. He's got metal in his neck, and this is a guy that made a commitment. He's a very religious man, made a commitment to God way back, 23 years ago, promising to devote his life to this cause and to be with defectors every step of the way. So he is, trudging through the mountains of Vietnam as in the illegal crossing into Laos. He is on the boat going over the Mekong River. We were on the Laos side of the river shooting the wide shots. He's on the boat, and with one of his brokers who was shooting the camera on the boat. He goes all the way. He's been shot at before in the Mekong River. I mean, he's the things that he's been through. But this is his mission. He truly, and he's scared. He's always scared. He's told me he's always scared getting on that boat, going through those mountains, everything. I mean, even being in Laos and Vietnam, where he could also be kidnapped. It's not quite as dangerous as China, but, where he's always afraid. He's an extraordinary individual.
I would just add one thing as a little, just one line. Everything Madeline said about Pastor Kim, obviously, he is all of that. But now also we got to spend some time with him. He is so funny, isn't he not, Madeline? He has great sense of humor. He's very irreverent, and he has all these like funny jokes like stuff. So there's such obviously he's a very serious person with this mission, and he's a courageous person, but he's just a wonderful person also. So really enjoyed getting to know him better too.
I got the impression that his wife is funny too, and that they probably have a very funny relationship at times.
They have such an amazing, and there's so much more footage that I wish I could have used in the film with her. I mean, just with them, oh my God, it just in
I feel like that scene where she said she fell in love with him because she reminded her of a dear leader in North Korea because of the weight. I mean, I just feel like that kind of like, it was such a serious movie, but that kind of scene that kind of adds texture was that.
Yeah.
And then also, Madeline, I'm thinking about like the scene where he's like talking to the brother about how to shoot, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's like you're watching a fellow filmmaker in a way, right? I mean, did you get that feeling?
Well, that was so important to me to put that into the film, because Pastor Kim really was a line producer on this film as well, meaning he is the one who arranged how we were getting this footage from the border of North Korea and China. You know, even when we were in Southeast Asia with him, yes, we were shooting, but also there were times when there were elements of the broker community or, you know, his parts of the Underground Railroad that are aligned with his church when they were also shooting. He, you know, he would think through everything. And he was also, you know, obviously deeply involved with every aspect of security and what we show, what we don't show, you know, in terms of routes, in terms of, you know, even the safe houses that we show. I would always say to Pastor Kim, are you sure we can show this in the movie? He's like, it's like, yeah, we switch it up all the time, you know. So I really wanted that scene to be in the film. I was determined because I love that this guy actually becomes like a director in the movie, right? It's so, and that is who he is, you know, that is who he is. He's a man of many talents.
We at the beginning, you both mentioned, or Sue, you mentioned about So-yeon and the response she's gotten. What was it like for the Rowe family to see this movie for the first time? I mean, not that you can speak for them, but I mean, like, what did you glean from their experience?
So I would just say, and then Madeline, please jump in, because the first time was at the Sundance, and we had the whole Rowe family and Pastor Kim and So-yeon with us. What an experience. They were sitting behind me, and I think So-yeon was right behind me, and I, you know, that was very sad, obviously, because this was the first time for them to see it. So for So-yeon, for example, I'll start with her. She was obviously extremely emotional just having to see her son and the whole thing come this way, and the Rowe family too. I don't know, but they're, you know, they were, I remember having a conversation with the grandma. She has never gone to a movie theater. There is no movie theater in North Korea. Can you imagine the first time she goes to the movie theater is at Sundance, and she's seeing a gigantic screen of herself and her family with all these Americans that are supposed to be the devils, you know, the most hostile country with these. So it was just a kind of very surreal experience for everybody. But then after the film, when everybody went up and there was this overwhelming cheer, people were giving a standing ovation, people were crying. They were just incredibly moved. But Madeline, what was?
No, that's the same. Well, So-yeon had actually seen it before, because we you know, we had an agreement actually with everyone that, like, if So-yeon didn't want this shown in the end, it wasn't going to be shown.
Right.
And likewise with the Rowe family, but the Rowe family was always on board. And so was So-yeon, but like So-yeon's story, particularly sensitive, obviously. And but yeah, I mean, for So-yeon, it's I mean, she watched it again at Telluride this fall, but I think, you know, we've talked with her. She probably doesn't need to see it more. Like Sue said, what's really giving her so much energy and meaning and making her feel so connected to her son is this advocacy for him, which we are starting up as this call to action for him and for her. But the Rowe family have just been thrilled. I mean, they were all at the Busan International Film Festival watching the film again, and they're so proud. And they, you know, Mama Rowe is, you know, studying to be a social worker to help other defectors. So they also feel the cause, you know, of this, and this film is part of, like, it aligns with their mission and with So-yeon's 100%.
Have there been security issues with the movie at all?
I mean, you know, Pastor Kim's been known by the regime since, you know, for 23 years, and, you know, hasn't gone into China since 2009 because of that, because he was told he could be kidnapped back into North Korea. So-yeon's been known by the regime since way before we met her, because she had spoken before the UN and other places, mostly about violence against women inside North Korea. Hyun-seo Lee, obviously one of the most high-profile defectors, she's been known by the regime. Pastor Kim and Hyun-seo have in the past at times been offered bodyguards by the South Korean government before we ever met them. When the South Korean government had intel that there might be North Koreans inside South Korea looking for them. So in terms of them, I mean, there's nothing new for the North Korean regime to discover about them. For us, we were, of course, nervous, and continue to be prudent. But I think the more that we learned, the more defined our nervousness became, because in reality, and Sue should speak to this afterwards, because all of our vetting through policy, people like Sue, and then also through the NGO world, the activism world, Kim Jong-un, what we say about Kim Jong-un in this film is basically what we hear on the news, that he is a brutal dictator, that he is a strong man. These are things that by all accounts don't bother him. The one film that he did react to was the Sony film, The Interview, 10 years back or whatever, where he was mocked. And I think they might have blown a rocket up his ass. I don't know, something, but that really offended him. But the Kim regime is an important backdrop to our film, because obviously the Kim regime and its policies are the reasons people are leaving or wanting to leave North Korea. So it has to be a part of our film, but the focus of our film is on the people. But Sue, who has been one of the people who vetted this for us, she can speak to this as well.
Yeah, I mean, Madeline, I don't have much to add. Madeline, as Madeline said, we are all known. I mean, I also have a bi-weekly show where I'm weekly critical of the Kim regime on various different things. So I think the interview was just a very special case, because it was really mockery of Kim,
right,
rather than fearing Kim. So, but all of that said, we do still take precautions. We are worried about hacking and, because the cyber threat and whatnot. So we do take our precautions, but I do think it's a different situation than the film, like the interview, for example.
Well, and so far nothing is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I'm glad to hear that's the case. Can you talk then about how you feel like this movie can move things forward regarding North Korea, and what steps are?
Well, one thing, and then Sue should obviously speak to this, but I think that on the news, again, we hear about the missiles, we hear about the parades, whatever. We basically are force-fed by the Kim regime, kind of what we put out there. I think every country should be talking about the human rights issues and about the people inside North Korea all the time, because the North Korean regime is not going to give up their nukes. Obviously, it's just a waste of space to even be, upset. These conversations about that, taking it seriously, were just absurd. They also know, obviously, that if they ever use the nukes, they would be destroyed as a country. So yeah, the nukes are there, but that's kind of like, we have to be talking about the people all the time, focusing on the people. And then the exchange of information from, these brave people inside North Korea who are risking their lives to shoot, from their sleeves and their pockets and underground, hidden cameras, to bring the truth of their country out is important, just as our film is, because if we don't know what's going on inside North Korea, we can't be responsible for helping them. But with this film, hopefully people now, we know, and we got to take some responsibility too. And then getting information about the outside world in, because North Koreans need to know that, they need to have a sense of entitlement, that they do deserve more. And that's, that exchange of information can be the impetus for change from within for the people. But Sue, as a policy expert, will,
So I think two things. First, in terms of raising awareness, I think there's nothing like, by doing something like this, telling a story. Like, we have so many stats, and I've been quoting stats all the time. 120,000 people in political prison camps, 2 million people died during the famine years in the 1990s, this and that. You can quote various stats, but then people see one just story of one family and one mother's quest to get her son out. That resonates more than any kind of number that can be thrown at them. So I think for the general public, just learning about North Korea, because media, everybody's attention is always on WMD, as Madeline said. So people don't really know what goes on in North Korea. What is it like? They don't know much about this story. So first, learning about it, and then people are motivated after the film. Maybe there's an interest, right? So now you can do a little more search to educate yourself and have a better understanding of what is going on. And that's with the general public. And then on the policy side too, too long, Washington's and Seoul too, the South Korean administration too, the focus has always been on the sort of the military side, on that the weapons and so on. And I think it's very important for us to have, when it comes to North Korea policy, it's integrated approach. Humanitarian issues and human rights issues cannot be a second to just a nuclear issue. So it's to give pressure to the policymakers to have a policy that's more integrated. So I'm not saying WMD stuff is not important. It is important, obviously, but we need to have a more of an integrated, holistic approach. So hopefully we raise awareness with the public, and then we can also pressure the policymakers to, incorporate more of a human rights concerns to their overall North Korea policy.
You probably also have fantasies of people in North Korea getting to see this movie in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
a lot of defectors who I've met in South Korea are actually involved in one way or another with precisely this, getting information into North Korea, because they do believe so strongly that that is important in terms of, like I said, people having a sense of what they deserve. And this film will definitely be one of the things on those flash drives that are attempted to be smuggled into North Korea.
Madeline, what did working on this movie tell you about what you do? What insight did you get into just being a documentary filmmaker from working on a project like this?
I mean, it tells me that this is the most important and incredible job out there. I mean, just that, something that Sue said about statistics versus people. I mean, I've always believed in my life and in my work, the more specific, the more universal. And I think, it's amazing that you can talk about 1,000 people and just kind of your eyes roll back in your head, but you can focus on one tiny little thing and it can ripple and resonate for miles. And I think, in a world where we have so much hostility and, just brutality amongst human being to human being, digging down deep into a person, a story, a situation, a reality can be the most powerful tool for empathy and compassion and for just us, for the evolution of our race, our species, if we're going to survive at all right now. I'm sorry, I don't want to be negative, but no. I think I think documentary filmmaking is so important, and not just in the political realm. It's like in the personal. I mean, there's any number of things that you can focus on that will tell a story that ripples out on many, many, many levels. So I feel honored to be able to do what we do, and really honored to have been trusted by these people, and just so honored and grateful to have met them, because they are extraordinary people. And I know we're going to be connected, forever. What we went through, it's like, and like Sue said, just even the grappling with the culture clash of, grandma thinking for 80 years that Americans only exist to kill her, to desire to kill her, and then having this personal experience with us. It's like just the way in which the connection between us became so strong because of what it took, because of the evolution we all went through to get there.
Well, it's why we're all grateful that you both worked so hard to make this happen and to bring it to us. And I can't thank you enough, both of you, for talking to us about it. And hopefully this will have an impact beyond its showing in theaters. So thank you both for joining us, and thank you everyone for being there. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor. Thank you.